Okay then, BlizzCon Online, Blizzconline. I hate the name of it. Can we just call it BlizzCon Online instead of trying to be clever? Anyway, BlizzCon was meant to happen back in November of 2020, and it's now February of 2021, and here we are. COVID strikes again. But hey, we got our BlizzCon, and we got, yes, some Overwatch 2 news. Now, obviously, a lot of people are disappointed. A lot of people wanted Overwatch 2 to be released. A lot of people wanted a beta. A lot of people wanted a lot of things. We haven't got either. We don't even have a release date yet either. But we do have a lot of information. And there's some big tellers from this BlizzCon, from what we've seen in Overwatch 2. So, I was getting slightly worried. I watched the opening ceremonies for the BlizzCon Online, and they didn't actually go to Overwatch. They went to Diablo, they went to WoW, and they went to Hearthstone. And I was like, oh no, this is not good. But afterwards, they did have their individual channel on Unplay Overwatch. We did get a lot of Overwatch 2 news with Jeff Kaplan and the gang. There was actually 6 of them from the game design team from all different areas. And it was super, super interesting to see what they've been getting up to. We had 2 new maps revealed for Overwatch 2. These will be Rome and New York City. And I tell you what, 2 very different maps, but 2 very interesting and cool maps. Rome looks beautiful. It looks absolutely sensational. And New York looks like it could have a lot of unique interactions. New York kind of reminds me of the new deathmatch map they've just introduced that I can't pronounce the name of still. But I think, actually, those maps look really good. And you can add them to the maps that were already revealed in 2019, the likes of Gothenburg and Toronto, which you've heard more on about that. When you first enter Toronto, it will be in a PvE environment, and it will have a snowstorm in it. Yes, they have been working on weather effects in Overwatch 2, and it looks incredible. Now, there is a caveat to this. I'm hoping the weather effects will probably only be PvE based. I would not have thought they will introduce the weather effects into PvP, especially when you're playing in competitive environments. I would doubt that somehow. We never know. It would introduce a unique factor, but it would make it a lottery, and it would make it more adaptable. Say, if you were, they used Anubis, Temple of Anubis as an example, it had a sandstorm on it. Well, if you had a sandstorm on Anubis in a competitive game, would you be playing Widowmaker, or would it be lack of sightlines because of that sandstorm? So it could introduce some really unique qualities, and I didn't hear anything during the actual broadcast to say that they were definitely basing it on one or the other. I would assume it is PvE only though. Sojourn, we got more information on her. Definitely a DPS, and she has a railgun. Now that is something that a lot of people had been looking for a while in Overwatch, something Overwatch had lacked. There's no one with a railgun in Overwatch, and it looks like it has 2 unique modes. It has that charge mode, and it has that more automatic fire mode. Very interesting hero, Sojourn. And I think she could be quite powerful by the looks of it. The tree system in PvE has been overhauled already, much more complex than it was, and it looks really, really engaging and really interesting. But let's concentrate more on the PvP side of things, and the look side of things, because I know a lot of people don't go into PvE in this environment. So, very interesting news on Reinhardt and roles as a whole in the PvP environment. So, Reinhardt, they are trying things out with Reinhardt. Now, we know that Reinhardt is in a little bit of a weird place right now, and they are trying new things with him. They have given him 2 fire strikes, a bit like a Junkrat going to 2 concussion mines, but he also has the ability to cancel his charge, which I think is super interesting. I've wanted Reinhardt to have the ability to cancel his charge for a long time, and I think that sets up a little bit of unpredictability in Reinhardt play. And I saw during the broadcast, and this is what cropped into my mind, charging an enemy Reinhardt, cancelling and shattering immediately after the cancel. That could be something that becomes incredibly powerful if we see a Reinhardt that can cancel his charge. So, yeah, I like that. I like that change, but possibly the biggest change that we're looking at is they are experimenting with the idea of passives that would cover the entire role you're playing. So, for tanks, they said that the passive would be a knockback resistance. So we know that Reinhardt has gained a knockback resistance recently in a passive called Steadfast. They would be rolling that out across all tank heroes to make them tankier, to make them feel like tanks, play like tanks. They're going to resist more knockback damage. It would make sense, and I think that instills more power into tank role, whereas tanks at the moment can feel a little bit flimsy and a little bit worthless, dare I say. And I think they also mentioned a movement speed increase for DPS across the board. It would be a super interesting thing to try out, and I actually really like the idea. I don't know what their full plans are, and of course it is experimenting internally right now, but I like the idea, and I think it installs a bit of power into each role. So that's a really neat idea, and I really like them bringing that in. We do have some new looks for heroes. Now, this is something that, again, a lot of people get picky about. Last time around, we saw Reinhardt, Mercy, Lucio, etc. This time, we've seen 4 new looks. So this is Pharah, McCree, Reaper, and Widowmaker. And they all have nice updated looks. Pharah going with a blue and white theme instead of that blue and gold theme. I think probably the biggest overhaul you'll see in a design out of these 4 is Widowmaker, as her hair has changed a lot and she looks a lot different. Her armor looks a lot more mechanical now. I like the idea, but I don't like the new Widowmaker look. Out of all of the heroes I have seen out of the new looks so far, I think this Widowmaker change is the worst. But again, it's something that may grow on you. So, and I actually, when I was watching the Blizzcon stream before, because they did the hero looks at the end, I saw play from one of the maps, and I saw that new Widowmaker, and I was like, there's a new Widowmaker redesign in there. You're teasing us, Blizzard. So there's been a lot revealed. PvE is massive, like much more in depth than it was when we first had Overwatch 2 announced. And another thing is, when I was watching this stuff, new gun sounds. The guns sound incredibly powerful, like incredibly powerful. Across the board, things were changing, but what stood out to me the most was how beautiful the maps looked. Not just the new maps, King's Row, Paris, Rialto, Blizzard World. How different, how detailed, how the shadows looked, how impressive and beautiful the game looked. I think it's incredible. This new engine is going to make Overwatch feel and look completely different. And this new engine is not isolated to Overwatch 2 because it will be coming to Overwatch 1, as they said, in 2019. So I think this is super interesting. We've got a lot more information at this BlizzCon than I had expected, because I thought we were going to get a quiet BlizzCon. Now, they concluded with a lot of things, but they concluded with a passionate statement on how they're working to make it the best it can be. And I really believe that from what they've showed us at this BlizzCon. We're actually initially very worried coming into this BlizzCon. I didn't think we'd hear much, but we've heard a lot. And something that struck out to me was what they were saying. They've been playing it internally. They've been having fun. And one person said that they can sit down at night and have a game of Overwatch 2. That's incredible to hear. Why is that incredible to hear? Because it's playable. It's not just a demo that was on the BlizzCon 2019 show floor. It is a playable game that they're having fun in right now. That tells me, and you can see it from the announcements and stuff they've been talking about, from the footage, much more extensive. We have got so much footage. So much footage. We've got gameplay from Sojourn. We've got gameplay from loads of different heroes. We've got gameplay from Widowmaker and her new look. We've got PvE and insights into Zenyatta PvE and things like that. There is a ton of stuff at this BlizzCon, but it also all points to the fact that they have done an incredible amount between this and last BlizzCon. This Overwatch 2 is much, much further down the line than the Overwatch 2 we initially saw. And so, we cannot be that far away from a release. Now, there was no release date, and that is something that's going to bug a lot of people. But from what we've seen, I think we have to say that I think it's releasable in the next year. So between now and the end of February 2021. Could we possibly see a BlizzCon at the regular time this year? November, the start of November-ish. Could that be when we see Overwatch 2? Or when we see a beta for Overwatch 2? Is that possible? It could be. But I think almost certainly you'll see Overwatch 2 before the 2022 anniversary of the game. So, Overwatch 2's come a long way. They've talked a lot. I implore you to go and watch the Overwatch 2 behind the scenes stuff from BlizzCon, because it is a lot. It's a lot to see. There is a lot to see. It's very eye-opening, and it's great to see so much progress made. I just wish they'd give us a little bit more update every so often, instead of it being every BlizzCon. We've had to wait for a long time, but we've finally got some updates. But it's super, super interesting. We are still going to have to wait for Overwatch 2, but I don't think it's going to be a massively long time. I think it will be a year, if not less. It will certainly be after the Overwatch League season, that's for sure, because they won't dump it in the middle of a season. But a lot of what has been said is really promising, and I'm willing to give the devs time. If they're going to make this game as incredible as they are hyping it up to be, with all these game modes, all these changes, and substantial changes to PvP, which they didn't roll out, taking away current PvP modes that are in the game, hint hint, to CP, there is incredible changes on the horizon for Overwatch, and I'm hyped again. I thought this BlizzCon was going to be a letdown, but it hasn't let me down. It hasn't let me down. It's not given everything, but it's not let me down. Anyway, different to usual, but it's super interesting. Nice to cover BlizzCon, finally, after all this time. Shock vs. the World, that was on as well. I haven't seen it, in all fairness. And then we have a load of Overwatch League content coming up, and we're not that far away from our season previews for a lot of teams as well. So, whoa, content's coming. Content's coming, guys. Don't you worry about it. And season schedule is coming soon. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to give a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then.